I would say the single biggest hurdle to attaining a Washington, D.C. internship is the belief. The amount of students I've spoken to, this most common misconception that these DC internships are somehow reserved for the top of the top, for the people that are the most competitive, the people in Ivy League schools, the people in different particular family backgrounds, right? Oh, I have a friend that works in the government, or my dad knows somebody. All of that, just forget about it. There are 535 congressional members in the US that are taking multiple interns each and every semester. There are thousands of interns in Congress year by year. And those are not the only two opportunities you have to intern in DC, but they happen to be some of the most prestigious ones, and you can be one as well. One of the very first things that I did when I was applying to internships was I broke out that self belief. Maybe it was I felt a little bit of an imposter applying to some of these internships, but I at least applied to them. I at least attempted to go for them. There are some times in your career where only knowing what the best is, it can actually serve to benefit you. Because if you think about it, I was only really looking at DC internships without even thinking that they were a possibility for me, just because I didn't really understand how local or state government internships worked. And I myself landed a congressional internship when I was in college. I had applied to two internships. I applied to a Senate position and I had applied to a think tank, and both of them rejected me. Both of them rejected me, and I was like, oh, this isn't for me. I'm not going to get an internship in time before I graduate, right? And and then I applied to another congressional internship. This time I had sought out for help. I had understood a little bit more as to what they were looking for, and I was able to get that opportunity. I did not get accepted for the first round. I got accepted to the second semester, but I was able to land that internship. And I was a Hispanic college student, second generation immigrant from Venezuela, right? The first in my family to attain any government opportunity, really. The first in my bloodline to have any opportunity in the US government of that caliber. And I didn't have the connections. I particularly didn't have the prestigious university name. I went to Florida International University, which, don't get me wrong, underrated school. If you're gonna go to any school in Miami, that's a definitely underrated school, and it's only on the come up. They actually have an office in Washington D.C., and so I reached out to their office, and so they were able to help me with like my resume and certain things like that. And with that assistance, I was able to then land that opportunity. And one of the very first things that I want to focus on in this video is, what is your pathway towards this internship, right? You're breaking your self belief by just even applying. So I just applaud you by just watching this video. You're already breaking that self belief. You already have some intriguement towards this industry, towards these kind of internships, and I applaud you for doing that. And just before I get into this, I have a link right now. It's on pre-sale. Or maybe when you're watching it, it's not on pre-sale anymore. But I have a link to my course on how you can land a congressional internship below. Go ahead and check it out. It's a lot of value in there. If not, just enjoy the value I'm giving here. But it's an absolute steal. I could be charging so much more for it. And there are things I talk about there that are not just for internships. These are foundational pieces for your resume, your cover letters. There's some things here where you might not have to buy another course again for career coaching. I'm seriously providing so much value for just an internship course, and for such a cheap price, because I know that students are working hard and doing things they have to do. But it's an absolute steal what you're getting for the value. So if you check out that link when you have the chance, and I'll be able to help you out more. Nonetheless, One of the things I feel like students really should focus on is extracurriculars, right? So when you get into undergrad, focus on your extracurriculars. It doesn't have to necessarily be, I maybe like the call it like the four horsemen, the whatever you want to call it, the three knights, right? Model United Nations, mock trials, student government, like these prestigious, extracurriculars. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. However, it can be if you prioritize it. Anything that you're going to prioritize. It could be the political science organization. It could be student government. It could even be a fraternity if you're going to be in leadership and you're doing work for the community. You're volunteering, right? Obviously, something related, right? Something related to your career and that you're involved in public service or you're at least growing your skills in public speaking, and interpersonal relationships. I personally did Model United Nations, and my school happened to be number one in the nation. Don't get me wrong. Now, this is not saying that if your school is not number one in the nation, don't do it. But it definitely attracted me more to be part of that prestigious group. And being part of that prestigious group, I actually did end up having the best connections in my university career. But that's just a case by case basis. Not every school is going to be have a number one team. Um, but if you are in Model UN or mock trial, maybe you could be the standout piece. You could be the person that grows it to a level that is competitive. And even if you're not, just being involved, trying to get a somewhat of a leadership position. I, for one, I directed my own committee, right? So if you know anything about Model United Nations, it's like a competitive. It's a pretty much a competitive room full of students. They're representing a country or they're representing an individual, and they're all trying to come up with like resolution papers on like a specific topic. And each conference, each simulation is like 1 or 2 days, 3 days. And I didn't necessarily do as well in like the very like competitive nature of it, the debate aspect of it. I wasn't doing as like prominent in those aspects. However, I did do much better in just actually like leading, like being the person, conducting the leading, conducting the simulation. And so they actually had a really good idea to do a topic about the Madrid conference in 1991, which you may not know about it, but it was a summit that took place between the US, Israel, and different Arab nations to focus on the Israeli Palestine conflict. It was a time where George Bush was in office, and I think it was George H.W. Bush. And so this kind of opportunity came about, and I wrote a little paper to discuss it and everything, and they chose me to lead a committee, lead my own competition for high school students. And so that gave me like a little bit of leverage to use Modern United Nations. Although I wasn't like the best delegate in practice, I still had a leadership position in the sense that I was hoping the high school competition we were going to have, and being one of the people that was actually directing my own committee on the topic of choice. And I ended up writing a 20-page paper on it. So that definitely helped as well. That I wrote a 20-page paper, background guide, pretty much on how to do it. This is all pre ChatGPT, by the way, which I wish I had ChatGPT now. It would have been much better to have a better timeline of things. Nonetheless, I had that opportunity on my resume, is what I'm saying. I had that opportunity on my resume, and I would say attend career fairs, attend networking events. I definitely would say that networking is much better done on LinkedIn. I'll speak about that in another video. If you want to learn more about networking on LinkedIn, once I have it uploaded, I'll link it below. Nonetheless, in-person networking actually helps a lot, especially if you have your resume on hand and you're going to these events that are specifically government related, right? If you happen to have any government related networking event in your university, definitely opt for that. Opt for that opportunity the best you can, and you'll be able to have that opportunity to speak to somebody that maybe knows a congressman or knows somebody that's hiring in Congress, right? And then you may have that avenue to go towards. At least my school had a government conference, right? They had like a government agency conference. So there's a bunch of agencies that came to our university, And I don't know if that's uncommon to different universities, but that to me, I was able to actually get in touch with the FIU DC office, the DC office for my university that I didn't even know existed. And so there's some opportunities that you don't even know your university has, that they might be like partnering with like other government agencies and different things. And now this video is not for government agencies, because that's like a whole nother resume format, a whole nother, path to go under. Nonetheless, when you're going for congressional internships, you want to be in that in the know of those things. Any advantage you can have, whether your university has a DC office, whether someone in your university helps with resumes, has helps. Maybe there's even a career service center that helps, that there's one person that has helped one student land a congressional internship, and then you can speak to that specific person, and they can give you some input. They'd be like, oh, this is kind of what helped, this is what helped. Of course, if you want like a more systemic, a more step by step, full thorough process, then you just check out my course, because that has literally everything you need to know. I don't know anyone online who's doing this to the magnitude that I am. I'm confident in saying that the courses I've taken for this, the information I've read on this, and obviously my experience and the experience of others that I've helped, it's a no brainer. It's a no brainer. That's the most thorough guide I can find on the internet. The most thorough course where you can literally learn everything, um, for that cheap price. So once again, that link is below when you get the opportunity to look at it. And I would say another thing that you should focus on to obtain these internships is your GPA. Your GPA. A lot of people are like, oh, you just need you're fine with like a lower GPA. There's these stories that it's like, oh, I had this GPA, still got the internship. At the end of the day, you want to have as much on your plate as possible. And I'm assuming that because you're watching this video, you're more proactive with your studies, you're more responsible. Yeah, I'm going to assume you're a good student, but if you don't happen to have a higher than a 3.5 GPA, try to get it as high as possible. That should be your focal point, especially early on. Especially if you're early on, catch it early on. You had a tough class, you had a tough course, a tough professor. Just, it's okay. Just bounce back from it. If for whatever reason your university offers a pass or fail option, of course, if you're going to med school, if you're going to law school, you might want to consider what works better for you. If you got to see, if you want to like cover it up, or how it affects your GPA later on. But if in your actual like calculated GPA, you only really need to have whatever is on there. So if you have a class that you got a C on, you can try to see if you can get a pass on it. We had the pandemic times like where some people could pass classes if they didn't feel like they had the best opportunity, or there were, that was when I was in college. And I've heard of even recent events like the Florida State University, that they had that shooting that happened. I heard that finals were optional for that semester, and people were able to go back home. Maybe they had a like a pass or fail option, so there are ways to recover from certain things. But if for whatever reason you can't, my recommendation is just to try to go as high as possible. At the very least, higher than a 3.0. And if you don't have higher than a 3.5 GPA, then you're going to want to leverage those extracurriculars a lot more. You might want to have that leadership position in an extracurricular. You might want to have an extra research experience. You might want to have a bonus internship under your belt that's more local, that's closer to your goals, a volunteer experience, right? For everything I'm talking about, pick like two or three of those and just hyper focus on it to kind of recover from that GPA, because unfortunately you will be competing with students that are in the Ivy Leagues. You will be competing with students that are in different colleges and universities, and they are the top of their class, right? I, for one, had a 3.9 GPA when I applied. It lowered a little bit after that semester. I had a 3.86 when I graduated, but nonetheless, I had a 3.9. I was doing pretty well in school. And if you also have a limiting belief with your grades, I'm here to tell you that life is rewards those who are responsible and follow direction, right? So I just want to mention to you that if you happen to have this limiting self-belief that, oh, I can't get the best grades, I can't do that, like, school is probably the easiest thing that you'll be doing. Life is much harder. Life is does not give you directions. Life does not give you options, and you somehow still should be getting passing grades in your life circumstances and your life cycles. Not to discourage anyone that has gone through a hiccup in their career. There's circumstances that affect our grades beyond our control. You had a family circumstance, family situation, so many different things that could really affect it. Nonetheless, it is very important. It is very important. And if you need any help, speak to a counselor, speak to somebody that can really help you out, because your GPA is very important when it comes to these internships. And it just wants, if you can have that box checked out, it's just going to make a lot of things easier. Education tends to be the very first thing on your resume that people look at when it comes to congressional internships, and then everything else follows afterwards. So if you could just check that box, say, okay, this guy's already a good student. I'm already excited about it, right? I'm already excited about her. I'm already excited about them, right? So then they look through the rest of your resume, and then everything else just adds to it, right? I personally came from a background that I didn't have the highest GPA in high school. I'll speak about all that in another video, but I graduated high school with my associates somehow. I'll explain how I did that, but I failed two classes my first year in high school, and I come from a background of not having the best grades, to the point where, in college I like really wanted to double down on it and become one of the best students I could be, which is why you saw that 3.9. Nonetheless, it's only a component. So if it's uncontrollable right now, if you can only do so much, wait a little, wait one semester, wait two more semesters, try to take easier courses, try to take an easier professor, double down on work, on office hours, different things that are in your control, and you should be fine. But nonetheless, I hope this video really did help you. If you happen to think I have no business going for a congressional internship, that's not for me, but you identified with this and saying, oh, I actually do have a high GPA, or I have done Model UN and my school's pretty good at it, and I do have a leadership position, and I did do like a research opportunity before. This is now time to consider it. This is now time to consider it. It is something you've always wanted to do, or maybe a dream you didn't even know you had. I think this is the time to do it. And like I said before, your best bet is going through the course that I have. It's the most thorough thing on the internet today when it comes to congressional internships. Go ahead and check that out. It's an absolute steal. If you like the video, like and comment, share with a friend that's going through similar discovery phase of college as you, and we'll speak in the next video.